Welcome to another episode of Treasure Reef, and in today's video we're going to take a tour of my friend Felix Reef Aquarium. This aquarium is fully stocked with coral that are at its peak of coloration. He's got amazing selection of fish, including a beautiful sohel tang, and we're going to talk about reef nutrition, lighting, flow, as well as you're going to get to see his fish room. I'm always jealous when people have fish rooms. This has always been a dream of mine, and he's got a pretty cool one. Finally, if you have any questions for Felix, please write them in the comments below. Let's dive right in. We are here today to see my friend Felix and his amazing, very large 6-foot aquarium. So Felix, thanks a lot for inviting me and us to your house, and I'm happy and excited to learn more about your tank and tell my viewers about it. So thank you. So Felix, how big is this tank?
It's a 220 Perfecto, just a regular tank, and I've been doing this for over 40 years already with different aquatic lives, and eventually decided to go into saltwater.
So 40 years is your total kind of aquarium hobby keeping experience?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. So 220 gallon Perfecto aquarium. How old is this aquarium?
2.5 years.
So you started it completely from frags, or?
Yeah, everything was frags.
Wow. So I do recall some of them. I think I may have even given some of them to you, but this is kind of the idea of how big the green slimer is going to get in easily under 2 years.
The green slimer actually has been cut already many times.
Nice.
It should have been at least, I would say, by 5 to 10 times bigger by now.
Wow. What about other corals? What's your favorite coral in this aquarium?
I think everybody are my favorite. That's why I'm keeping them.
I'm really impressed with the color of your rainbow loom over here. I have a similar frag, but mine is green with like pink tips, but yours is yellow, bright yellow with kind of flaming purple tips. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you look after your corals. What do you do for feeding or husbandry? Any tips?
So I feed my corals at least 2 to 3 times a week. Recently I switched to Fauna Marine, and I think there's some results. I'm also adding an Opox by Sea, Red Sea, and mainly, checking my nitrate and phosphate and making sure they're actually detectable, so that my corals can be able, absorb them.
When you talk about your levels for phosphates and nitrates, what do you like them to be at?
My phosphate is around 0.12, and my nitrate is about 50.
Wow, so that's pretty high nitrates.
Yeah, and they really like it, as you can see.
Yes, and I like a tank where there's just softies or no hard corals, but it's a mixed reef. And clearly this is a great example of a mixed reef where you have leather coral and montes and acropora and bubble coral, like everything. So, so you feed how many times per week? 2-3 times per week?
Yes.
And
fish are being fed 3 times a day.
Wow.
And I like my fish to be healthy and fat, and this way they're more calm, and this way it allows me to keep a lot of fish in the same tank with no aggressiveness.
Yeah, you have one of the fattest fish I know personally, and one thing amazing about this aquarium is that it has both a powder blue and powder brown in the same aquarium. This is not something that you should see very often. So can you tell us a little bit about how you managed to get both of them in the same aquarium?
It's somewhat of a process. I've been specializing mostly in fish, as you know, and it took me about 2 months to acclimate them together. And obviously in a tank like that, they can thrive no problem. Smaller than this, I would definitely not put them, but this tank can easily even contain a few more fish with no problem at all.
So I've known you for quite a few years, and you know, while I'm always admiring your corals, I've always thought of you as a fish whisperer, because you managed to have such a nice, diligent quarantine system to get all the fish to health through the feeding. All fish end up making it through the quarantine, most of them, and they're very healthy. They eat. Most of them eat dry food. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your quarantine process?
Every fish that I bring has to go through a full quarantine, at least a month to 2 months. I start with, you know, introducing different foods, and eventually when they get obviously used to any food, they get more calm, and they start trying other things because they see other fish eating as well. All my quarantines are running with a very strong UV, which is, I think it's a must. Even this system is running with a UV. Very low level of sand, because there's no way that I can clean the sand. I don't clean the sand. Water changes I do once in 2 months, roughly. But it all sometimes it can be 3 months and 4 months as well.
So you watch your corals and they kind of tell you what needs to happen,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I just watch my levels, and I use HANA checkers for phosphate and nitrate. And based on that, I decide if I need to do any water changes, if it's under control or not. Basically, my water changes are just to control the nutrients in the water. That's it, not to replenish. I do use Red Sea additives, iodine, trace elements, and iron. I don't use the potassium because the salt is already very rich in potassium, and there's no need to add any more potassium.
And I think the best looking fish in your aquarium, although I'm very partial, as my viewers know, to powder blues, that Sohal tang is just exemplary when it comes to color, the health, the pattern. How big is this guy? Probably around 5 inches?
More. He's about 6-7 inches.
Such a gorgeous fish, and right now probably it's going to be too large when it's fully grown, but right now it's just perfect for this 6-foot aquarium.
Fish only grow based on their environment, so their growth actually slows down if you're keeping them in a smaller environment. And most of the fish here, I started with very small fish. I don't like to buy big fish because with bigger fish there's more problems to acclimate, or they still have some memory from back home, and they don't tend to acclimate well with, you know.
But a smaller one makes it quite nicely to adult size.
Yeah.
Nice. Can we take a look at underneath the aquarium? And here we are. So I see a sump, I see lots of additives. I see that you do a lot of biological filtration, right? So tons of media.
Every media possible that it's possible to stuff into the sump, I've used to stuff it. I use filter socks or filter floss for mechanical filtration. Then everything goes through biological filtration, and just a regular skimmer. Nothing too big, no too small. As long as I can see that the skimmer can handle the nutrients. When I noticed that the nitrate and phosphate are dropping, you know, at very low levels, the corals are actually not happy, and they're not actually open as much. So there's no point of going based on literature if it doesn't work the way you want it to work, and you're not getting the colors.
Yep.
I'm only adding calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium, which I've been using from Bulk Reef Supply, and I'm very happy with that product. That's it. It's very simple setup.
And I see there's a reactor, probably for...
Just a carbon reactor and raw phos
nice.
media to absorb phosphate. And you can see based on the dates, I haven't changed it already for 4 months.
Yep.
Because the corals are actually absorbing most of that nitrate and phosphate.
And clearly the proof is in the pudding. This thing is working very well. Now, I guess the really cool thing about this setup that this is not all that you have. You also have a fish room. Mind if we take a quick peek at what's powering this thing from the back?
Yeah, sure.
So taking a look at the fish room, I love a space where you can organize lots of tanks. So we've got a few tanks that we're going to talk about in a second, but also we've got an area where you mix water, you do all the testing. I love the caddies for your phosphate and nitrate, very nice. I've got a 5-stage or 6-stage system for RO. I think this was our Kalkwasser experiment.
Yeah, it's working. It's adding Kalkwasser to the tank.
Nice. And then it's so beautiful to have a place where you can wash everything, clean it. Everything is nicely organized. And I can see that you have a refugium.
Yeah.
But I believe you've had it off for at least
some time.
A month?
2 months.
2 months. So, and the Cheeto still survived.
Yeah, with no light. It's a living system, so you have to adjust the levels of your refugium, of the NOPOX that I'm adding, to make sure that everything is in line. That's why we're testing all the time.
Yep, and you have 2 aquariums. So I think this is your kind of fragging setup.
Yeah.
So I believe this beautiful Sohel is for sale. So if anybody is interested, there is a limited time where you probably can still get it.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Beautiful, beautiful fish. And I believe that you did the wiring and
Those
all
are
the
DIY
lighting yourself.
LEDs. I bought 15 years ago, and they're great. They're just great. So for quarantine tanks or frac tanks, they work. So what's the point of wasting money?
Yeah. So I'm really impressed. Like everything is growing. Right now we just turned on the light, so basically the Euphilia right now is closed up. But if you give it, half an hour, it's gonna open up very nicely. But this lighting and everything else is good for SPS. It's good for anemones as well. So everybody is doing well, and I really like what we did, or you did with the skimmer. I'm saying we because I have a similar skimmer. So
Sump.
The sump. So you have the sump, but then the area for water reservoir, the top off, you have, and you kind of showed me how to do it. You have this Y connector from the return pump, and it splits, gets in here.
Yeah.
You've got all this cryptic zone live rock, and then it pours back into the sump. So you have a lot more water volume and more biological filtration.
Highly important biological filtration. You don't need to have so many rocks in your display, but you need to have a lot of biological filtration somewhere, and the sump is the best place to have it.
Yeah, and I'm very jealous of your dedicated fridge, because for all the spouses, some do mind having things shared, but this is perfect. So shared fridge, and then there's a second frag tank, which basically I guess is just all Euphilia.
Yeah, they're growing like weeds, so I have to frag them.
That's amazing. So no, it looks really good. Very, I'd say MacGyver-y. Like there's lots of, like if I look at the sump, I see that it's gone through quite a few iterations and has never stopped you from experimenting and just kind of adjusting it to whatever your needs, as your needs adjust.
Yeah.
So same as this overflow here, all on the side. So you definitely have an engineer's mind, so you think and then you do it the way you like. That's beautiful. And that's a UV, is that correct?
Yeah, that's the new Lifeguard 55 watt UV.
Wow.
Amazing units. I'm really happy with it. I just bought a 90 watt for the bigger tank for the 220. They're really done a good job on them, and I'm just switching them between the two tanks right now, if I need to.
And you can see you're running UV on this tank, and everything is looking pretty good.
Yep.
Just like I said, we just turned on the light, so if you give it another half an hour, everything is just going to be in a prime color. Felix, this was amazing. This is such a beautiful aquarium. Thanks a lot for inviting us and telling us about your aquarium. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. I hope you have enjoyed today's video, and thank you, Felix, for giving us a tour. If you have any questions for Felix, or you have anything you want me to cover in the future videos, please write them in the comments below, and I'll make sure to listen to your feedback.